Hi, I'm Emily Anderson, and I'm going to go over the syllabus in a video so that we don't have to do it on the first day of class. I'm sitting here in my home office, and there are books and desks and shelves behind me. And I guess you'll see it again since our first week of classes will be on Zoom. Okay, so most of what I'm going to do is share my screen. And while I go over the syllabus, I'm going to call out a bunch of colors. And then the syllabus quiz will be asking you to mark down the colors in the order in which I called them out. So the first color is yellow. So write that down. And then I'm going to write down that I just said it. And after the syllabus, go to the quiz and mark the first color as yellow. Okay. Mostly I'm going to share my screen. So let me start doing that now. Okay, so this is what our Google Classroom looks like. And most of what you will want to look at is under classwork. And the first thing I'm going to show you is on the syllabus and course information. Okay, the syllabus quiz, which you'll take after you watch this, is right here. One of the things you'll need to do is introduce yourself on Flipgrid, and here's the Zoom link in case you need it. Whoops, I just messed something up. Okay, the syllabus looks like this. And let's say the second color is olive. Okay, so we're meeting on Zoom for the first week and then in 301 Old Main. My office hours are Thursdays from 11 to 2. During my office hours, I sit there and hope people will come talk to me. So please do. I'm also around a lot, so you're welcome to drop by and see whether I have time to talk to you. If you come to my office hours, it's easier for me because I've set aside that time already. My email address is anderson@knox.edu, not eAnderson. But I hate email. I loathe it. And I'm much more likely to respond quickly if you text me at this number right here. It's not my real phone number. It won't ring my phone. But I see those text messages a lot more frequently than I check my email. You want to email me if you have something longer that I need to respond to or something that's more detailed. And then in the subject line, just let me know that you are a student and not a mailing list. Okay, you are welcome to call me Emily. If you can't manage to do that, you can call me Dr. Anderson or Professor Anderson. And my office is 309 Old Main. Most of what I'm going to be showing you is about course policies and specific assignments. But first of all, information about meeting with me, which I just explained. One of the things that you'll want to notice is a link for signing up. That'll take you to my Google Calendar page. You don't have to have an appointment before you come to office hours, but if you do have an appointment, you'll be able to get in ahead of a line if there's a line, or if you can only meet with me during a certain time, it'd be better if you made an appointment in case other people are looking at that time as well. Okay, back to policies and assignments. So this is what that page looks like. And here are all of the things I'm going to walk through with you. The first one is the course materials, which you already know. And we're reading 5 books that you'll need to buy. I hope you've already purchased these editions. The links are to Amazon, although you should be able to find them in multiple places. Okay, the next color is teal. Okay, So get those. There are also going to be several PDFs that we're reading throughout the term. Please try to print those out. It's much cheaper than buying the books, and it's much easier for you to take notes and for you just to read thoroughly if you've got them, if you've got hard copies of them. All right. Electronic devices. You are welcome to bring whatever you want to class. I don't know how you take notes best. I don't know how you look things up. If you need anything electronic, that's up to you to decide. It is the case that whatever you bring has to be totally silent, or I will do my best to embarrass you if your phone makes a noise. Usually by having you text someone you don't want to text. I have also been known to make people sign up for pizza delivery coupons and playing songs. Okay, don't look at social media. Don't do any of those dumb things, right? Just use it only for class. I'm trusting that you will do that. So please do it. Okay. You should know that most people do much better taking notes on pen and paper, much better than on a computer. And the reason is that if you're writing on a computer, it's really easy to write things out verbatim. But if you're writing with a pen and paper, then you have to synthesize the information before writing it down. And that turns out to be much more useful for you. So keep that in mind if you're trying to decide. Okay. Plagiarism, don't do it, is the short version. The long version is that there are different ways to plagiarize. One is to pretend you wrote something that you didn't write. Obviously, that is horrible, and you will not do it. Others that are slightly more nuanced is paraphrasing someone else's work or referring to someone else's work without giving that person credit. Don't do those either. It's really horrible to steal other people's ideas the same way it is to steal other people's words. And then citing something incorrectly is a different kind of problem. That just means you didn't pay attention to how to cite something or don't know how to cite something, and that we can work on. So it's a really big deal, but it's a different kind of problem. Okay, if you have questions about borderline cases, about how to cite things, read through this document, please. And if you're looking for examples, you can scroll down to the bottom, especially examples of paraphrasing and referring, what that looks like, as opposed to just taking someone's words. Okay. The next color is, let's see, ivory. Be advised, everything in this class is potentially upsetting. The whole material is going to upset or bug or distress people at some point. If you have PTSD, please talk to Stephanie Grimes. She's the disability support specialist, and she can work out a plan with the two of us. Okay, the grading scale I use is a 100-point scale. So it will look weird to you when assignments start coming back because it's not the 60 to 100-point scale. I do this because it gives me a lot more, it gives me a greater ability to differentiate between your work than a regular 60 to 100-point scale does. This means that Google Classroom is gonna, whatever it looks like your grade is based on the 60 to 100-point scale, that's not what your actual grade will look like on the scale I'm using. Okay, let's do another color. Lime. And our class list. So especially when we're doing draft workshops or something similar, you might need to get a hold of people, or you might need to know people's names and pronouns for some reason. So that's all on our class list. If you haven't double checked this yet, please let me know. The other reason to look at this list is that you can see the 2 paths for women. What will the girl become? And it walks you through these 2 girls, women's different lives. One ends up an outcast, another ends up an honored grandmother. And notice that the outcast begins by reading bad literature. So be careful. Okay, next, participation. I take participation really seriously. Let's say the next color is azure. Participation means more than just talking. It means, let's see, doing your work before class, listening, seeming interested, asking questions, offering interpretations, and laughing at my jokes. Easier for me to teach, easier for your peers to learn. So part of what that means is respecting that everyone in the class is an adult human person with agency, which is a phrase that will surely come up in class because I use it all the time. For example, learn people's names. I'm terrible with names. And so this is a reminder for me as much as it is for you. Talk, not all the time. Please raise your hand. I know it's a little weird in an upper division class, but it helps me manage people, manage a conversation when people who don't speak as often might want to speak. And I'm frequently trying to create an awkward silence so that people have a chance to think about the question before having something to say. So wait it out with me. If it's really hard for you to speak in class, let me know. I have a couple of strategies I can use to make it easier for you. And again, you should pretend to be interested even if you aren't, and you should definitely laugh at my jokes. That is a course requirement. Okay, the next color is gray. All right, almost every day that you're doing reading, you're going to be submitting a question. It's like a discussion question. It doesn't have to be long. 100 words is short. You'll also, because of the way Google Classroom works, want to write this out in another document and paste it into Google Classroom. It's done. Okay, the question that you come up with should be a discussion question. We might or might not talk about it, but it should, if we do, give us something meaty to discuss. So for example, something that brings up larger questions about the material and the way it relates to other things that we've read or discussed. It also needs to be specific to the reading we're about to talk about. So a discussion question can't be about the earlier part of the book, or can't be about a book in general if we haven't finished it yet. Okay, you can structure it in any way that you like. Most people start with a question and then reflect on it for a bit, or offer some reflections and then ask a question about them. If you have a different strategy, that's no problem. If you're absent, you can't, let me start over. You can't turn questions in late. There's no point in doing a discussion question after the class that we've discussed the material in. But if you're absent, you can turn it in late up until the next class you attend. So if you're absent on a Wednesday, you can turn 2 in for Friday's class. That's fine. Okay, so I'm grading questions according to these criteria. Most of this I've already explained. And then there are examples of different questions that get different marks. These are all about Eliza Haywood's Phantomina. And you do not have to do a question for Fantomina on the first day of class. Once you've read it, these questions will make more sense, and the example should give you a stronger picture of what I'm asking you to do. Okay, the next color is orange. Okay. So the first question you're going to submit is going to be on Wednesday. Because that's soon, if you have questions about what you're meant to do here for this assignment, you should ask me as soon as possible. All right. The next thing that you're going to be doing throughout the term is an annotated bibliography. And I will say that of all the assignments, this is a really bad one to get behind on. Throughout the term, well, let me start at the end. You won't have time at the end of term to do all of the research you'll need to do for your final paper. So you're going to be doing research throughout the term. And then that'll be before you even know what you're working on, or what you're going to write on. At the end of the term, we're going to put all of our research together and end up with a really big document about all of the books we've read. So at the end of term, when you get this big document, it'll have all the stuff that you annotated, but it'll also have all the stuff that everybody annotated. And you'll be able to go through and find articles that might be useful to you and get a summary of them and an evaluation of them. And then you'll have the article also available to you, which will save you a lot of time in trying to do your own research. Okay, so that's the goal. The assignment is to pick a certain kind of source, and I won't read this to you, and then annotate it. The annotations should be summaries of the arguments in the article or in the chapter. So read this. You should also, in addition to summarizing it, evaluate it. And evaluate it means tell us why it's relevant, what reservations you had, who might use it. Okay. When you have your annotated bibliography entry, you're going to give us the citation, you're going to give us the summary, you're going to give us the evaluation, and you're going to upload a PDF so that people have it right away instead of having to track it down. Okay. Grades for the annotated bibliography are according to these criteria, which we can talk about later if you like. And then there are examples down below. There are two examples that are a little different. Both of them are really good. So the citation, the summary of the argument, the evaluation of the argument, citation, summary of the argument, evaluation of the argument. Okay. Now, in order to, let me call it another color. Let's say maroon. In order to do an annotated bibliography the way I'm talking about, we need to make sure that two people don't do the same source. We don't want multiple duplicate entries on the same article, say. So when you find something that you would like to annotate, you need to claim it to let the other students know that you are working on it. So there's a link here to a Google form where you're going to tell people what you're working on. Even before you do that, you should look to see what other people have claimed already so that you know yours is new. So to do that, you should look here at the spreadsheet of what people have claimed. When you're ready to submit an entry, you go to the form here. I'm going to give you a really clean version of this at the end of term, but if you want to see already what people are submitting, you can look here. And then this is the Google Drive folder for uploading PDFs. So all of the links you need are at the top of the assignment. The reason it's bad to get behind is that it's bad to get behind. And then also it's really pretty hard to evaluate and summarize a lot of peer-reviewed, scholarly, academic, professional sources at the last minute. And I would prefer that you not find that out the hard way. Okay, next is the paper, I think. Yes, the paper is, I think, really exciting because you get to write about your ideas and I get to read them, but I know it can be stressful also. There are a lot of things that we're going to do to get ready for submitting the final paper. It needs to be argumentative. It needs to include at least 3 sources, probably from the annotated bibliography, and it should be between 12 and 15 pages long. Okay, there's a little bit more on here too for details. You're gonna meet with me for a conference where we'll talk about your idea for the paper. Great. Then you're gonna write a draft of the paper. Great. And after the draft, we're gonna have a workshop where people can give you suggestions, go over your paper with you according to the grading criteria. And then you'll write the final paper. And of course, I will be very available to you throughout the whole process. And these are the grading criteria that I'm using to evaluate your paper. The papers are due on the last day of the term, the last day of finals, kind of at the end of the term. So you can't really get an extension because the term is just over. But that should be fine because the assignment's scaffolded to the point where you'll have a good draft a week and a half before the paper's due anyway. Okay, the next color is green. Okay. The grading criteria for papers are right here. Most important for your paper is that you have a good argument. I don't really know how to evaluate papers without an argument. The argument is sort of like the whatever grade you get on the paper. Well, let me put it this way. If you have a great argument and then everything else is so-so, you might get a B+. If you have a weak argument, but everything else is great, you might get a B-, something like that. So we care a lot more about the argument than we do about the other stuff. That said, next are analysis of evidence and organization, how well you prove your arguments and how carefully you construct the paper to help me follow your argument. And then lastly, clarity and style. It would be nice if your paper were clear and easy to read and if you had obviously proofread it. So consider doing those things. Okay. Next. Final grades. Your final grades are 25% annotated bibliography, 25% questions, 35% paper, and 15% participation. That's spread out a lot. So for your final grade in the class, if you're doing pretty well on all the things, you'll get a good grade. It's not like it all depends on the paper, for example. We need another color. Let's say coral. Okay. So back to the syllabus. We talked about the stuff up here at the top. The schedule looks like this. Before class starts, you need to do the syllabus quiz, right? Introduce yourself on Flipgrid, and then read the Eliza Haywood story, which I already sent you over email. And if you don't have it, you can download it here. Then we're going to read Defoe, which is Moll Flanders, and then Richardson's Pamela, and then some criticism by Nancy Armstrong. and another story by Henry Fielding, and then the Cleland. Okay, the first part of your annotated bibliography is due on January 31st. That's just the first half. I don't want to leave the whole thing to the end of term, and you want some feedback on how you're doing before you do the whole entire thing. Okay, so then we're reading the Bernie. On the 4th, there's an online Caxton event. Elizabeth Waybright's coming to talk about Jane Austen. You don't have to go, but it counts toward your participation. So if you can attend, that would be great, both for you and for me. Plus, it's going to be really interesting. Okay, the next color is red. Okay, no class on the 9th because of something that I don't remember that the college is doing. And then we're reading Lewis, Turner, Austen, turning in the second half of your annotated bibliography. On the 28th and the 1st, the literature majors are having their senior symposium. Again, you don't have to go, but going will count toward participation. Plus, it would be a nice and supportive thing for you to do for your colleagues. And it's going to be really interesting and cool. They're writing about play in different books and video games and films, like gender play, genre play, stuff like that. So please go. On the 2nd, no class because we're having conferences. Then the paper draft is due, the workshop, and the final paper. And that's the end of the term. So I think that's all I need to show you. And except we do have 2 more colors. The next one is plum. And the last one is blue. Okay. So I'm going to assume that we're all set on this. If you have questions, especially about the questions, the discussion questions, or about the annotated bibliography and how to find sources, specifically how to use the MLA bibliography from the library's database, we can talk about that a little bit in class, but you should let me know right away so that I can get a sense of how many people would like a refresher, and then I'll know how much time to spend on that in class. So please text me if that's you, or if you have questions about the questions or anything else. And I'll see you online in a couple of days, and I can't wait.